I'm Valerie Beal. I'm an author myself, but I was trained as a journalist. So here I get to channel some of my insatiable curiosity, although some might call it nosiness. Each episode features a focused conversation with an author about their work and the ideas that shape their stories, along with some potentially quirky questions you may not be expecting. If you love reading, writing, or simply learning more about some of your favorite authors, you're in the right place. Let's step off the page and begin. Today, I am joined by Carl Vonderau. I had to just double check that I was saying his name right. Now, I've known you for a while. It was a good thing I finally checked how to actually pronounce your last name. Carl is the author of Murderabilia and Saving Miles. I'm not missing anything. Those are the two.
Those are the two. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been published. Yeah.
I am curious. I have so many questions, but we're going to go off of the questions I had already sent you in
Sure. Ask anything
advance.
you want. Yeah.
So authors often get the advice to write what we know. And
Uh-huh.
we've heard this over and over again, at conferences or in, webinars or whatever.
Yeah.
So how has your work followed that advice and how have you not followed that advice?
Uh, well, both books rely on my banking background. I was a banker for 30 years and worked in several countries. And I worked in private banking, the high end part of banking. So you use part of it, like in Murderabilia, the main character is a private banker for the very wealthy, right? But the difference is that his father was a serial killer. So,
That's a slight difference.
I mean, my dad had his hobbies, but that wasn't one of them. So, 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 you get this advice of write what you know, but also write what you want to know, and you can come up with some unique perceptions because you don't know anything about it. So I read a lot about the children of serial killers. And I was fascinated by it because these are the other victims of their fathers,
Yeah,
because they all have very, very difficult lives. So that's what I really tried to explore in that book. And I didn't have any experience in it, but I did it.
right.
In Saving Miles, again, it's in the banking world, but this time and it's in all my books, it's about family. So it's family dysfunction, and they're crime books, but behind the crime is a family. So in this case, there's a very difficult child they've had that he's been so undisciplined, or he's gone so off the rails that they've had to send him to a residential treatment center. And, then he comes back and the problems really start. But, um, but we sent one of my sons to a residential treatment center 20 years ago. And so I wanted to use part of that, and my son gave me permission to do that because that kind of experience is emotionally resonates throughout everything.
Right.
And that's what I wanted it to do in that book. So,
Yeah, and I love that too because personally, I think that you don't have to know exactly, or have experienced the thing that you're writing about,
uh,
because if you're a good researcher, you can find out what you need to know to make the story work. And I think it's if you don't do your due diligence, it's when it's obvious in a story that you've, just kind of glossed over something, and especially if somebody's an expert in it. And we all know our readers will point out to us if we've messed something up,
yeah, they sure
of
do.
course.
Yeah. Yeah, but when you do research, you're looking for those emotional components, those emotional happenings that will create a story, and you feel them and you go, oh, I could really do something with that, you
Right.
know?
Right, very true. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, and you can do this for either book or both. If you were to pick a cast or a character, if you were to cast it, let's say you got movie rights, option, that would be really exciting. Who would you pick as the main characters in your book? What actors would you pick?
Well, in Saving Miles, I would pick Nicole Kidman for the mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's tall and she's good. She would be perfect for the part. I think I might pick Jeff Daniels for the father. Yeah, a
Oh, I like
vampire.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Now the kid's harder, because I don't know a lot of kid actors, but I used to think Timothy Chalamet would be good. He's 30 years old now, and the kid's 18. So there was a guy named Dominic Sensa in The Holdovers, who was very good. and he might be good for Miles. The book is written in three different points of view,
Mhm.
so you need somebody that can really get into all three of those characters.
Oh, that'd be fun. I'm like gonna try to wish you good things in 2026. We'll manifest the idea that someone will call you and offer you movie rights, an option.
There's always hope, and there's always delusion too.
Oh well, we can go down that path just for fun
Yeah,
once in a while, right? We'll just
yeah.
do that.
Hey, we're writers. We're used to delusion.
Yes, we do, we make our living making things up and.
We do. We do. We do. Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, I love that though. I would actually really like to see that would be a fun pairing. I don't know if Nicole Kidman and Jeff Daniels have ever been in the same movie together. I kind of think they haven't. So that would be fun.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, yeah. In the book, the male character is shorter, like by 3 or 4 inches than the female character. So that wouldn't be the case. But you know,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
sometimes they're not true to the story all the way. You have to make sure you have, producer credit, like so that you get to control some of those
Good
things.
luck with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Speaking of
Well,
delusion.
yeah. But we all want a movie of our books.
Yeah, and I
I
think it's
think,
it's fun to think of it, right?
yeah,
I don't know. And I think that certain books, and I think your books are very cinematic. I mean, I think that they could work well as movies. So I not every book would do that. Hey, just curious though, have you ever done any screenwriting or adaptations of your stories to screen?
no, no, I haven't. I haven't. No, no.
Curious.
Screenwriting is a very, very different skill than book
Hmm.
writing. So
Right. Yeah.
there's a learning curve there. Yeah,
And there are a lot of people who are so skilled at that. You see that they're brought in to do that adaptation.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a skill I have either. I'm always in awe of people who can do all that kind of writing and they do it very well. So
Yeah. Well, you think, you're a book writer and you have some skill in dialogue,
mhm.
and you think that will translate to screenwriting. To some extent it does, but in some extent it doesn't. So,
Right,
yeah.
right, and you have to pare so much back from the narrative. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know. I mean, it's to me, it's not something I enjoy writing novels, and so it's not something I probably will ever pursue. But there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that I know who can do, like I say, who can do both, and I'm like, whoa, that's cool that you can make your brain do that.
Right, right. Well, I mean, a movie producer can get the visual elements in, put them on the page as a screenwriter. So there's that collaboration, and then there's all the internal stuff. And how do you evoke the internal with just dialogue, or with, some of the cinematic techniques of, the way the
Right.
character looks at something or handles something.
Well, and that's when you really admire. So when there's a movie, say, with just very few characters, and these people are on the screen the entire time, and they're able to make you
Mm,
feel all the
yeah,
things, right?
yeah,
Those are
yeah,
the ones that win the
yeah,
Oscars, right?
yeah. Well, but then, if you have a book with a single narrator and a single voice, that's a very difficult proposition.
Yeah.
You have to be very skilled to pull that off and off to people to do it. Yeah.
What do you hope your readers feel or notice maybe when they read your books generally, or if you want to answer that specific to one of your books, feel free to do that too.
Yeah. My whole sort of motto is that it's crime writing, but behind every crime is a family. So
Hmm.
I get into these family relationships in the book. So I want my readers to see this family dysfunction, identify with it, and then identify with how my characters forgive one another, how they learn to cherish one another, and really that's the only way they survive. So that's the hope.
And human behavior is fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, it's complicated. We simplify it for books, really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, a little bit, right? But
yeah. Well, you can't get all of life into a book.
no, we
So,
try.
you can try and you can get a snippet that sort of is universal in it, hopefully. Yeah.
Well, and I think that things will resonate with people in different ways. And we were talking a little bit about like rereading books that we loved earlier before I started to record. And
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing about how at different times in our life we take different things away from the books we read. And sometimes it's exactly what we need at that moment in time.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Right. And books you cherished 20 years ago, you no longer like even, Couldn't get into it at all, and now you just think it's great.
but
Yeah.
every once in a while, and I'm sure you get this too, you get some feedback that
Yeah.
like somebody reviews your book or sends you a note that they absolutely love something, and you're like, oh, they got it and they liked it.
Yeah, they got it.
Yay.
Yeah, it worked for
Like,
them. Yeah.
yeah, and like the
Yeah.
pat on the back you need some days because
Yeah, you do.
writing's kind
Yeah.
of solitary and sometimes it's hard and whatever. Oh, wine, right? On the writing side of things, give me like one writing rule you believe in and one writing rule you like to break?
Well, there are a few of them, but
Well, you can
one
give me
is
all of them. I don't care.
yeah, well, no, too many would. One is that you've got to be born to be a writer.
Hmm.
That you've got to be born with a capacity to be a good writer. I think you can learn it. I think you
Hmm.
can learn it. Another is that you should be you should be able to get this book down on the page fast. And you go to the woods for a weekend and you write a book, right? It doesn't work that way. Not for me. You know, I mean, Faulkner wrote As I Lay Dying in like 25 days or something.
Oh, I didn't know that. Are you
Yeah,
kidding?
yeah,
Wow.
that's what I heard. Yeah, but I don't think all of his books were like that. And for me, and for a lot of people, rewriting is where you really discover what a book is.
Hmm.
So like Murderabilia, I wrote more than 20 times, and Saving Miles, I wrote 10 or 15 times. I don't know what it was. Um, some people don't need to do that, but I do, so it takes me a little longer to write the book.
I think too, like for instance, in when I'm writing books further into the series that I'm writing, they're easier.
Yeah,
You've established so many things, and
yeah,
this is a fantasy series for me, so it's very tropey, right? I know what I'm
okay,
doing with it, and
yeah,
so many decisions have already been made but the first book took longer, right?
yeah, yeah,
To get that settled, and
yeah,
I think too that if you're writing the same kind of book over and over again, and a lot of people do, and we enjoy those
yeah,
stories, like a police procedural series or something,
yeah,
those can be
yeah,
pretty fast. I think about people who put out so many books a year, and it's like, holy schmoly, that's a lot of books in a year. Um,
yeah, yeah,
so, and I think that everybody's got their rhythm to it. And I think when we try to force it, then that's when things kind of go sideways for us as a writer, when we try to force the speed. I don't
yeah. Could be one. Sometimes it's just the opposite.
know.
I did NaNoWriMo one year. I did 50,000 words, I think I did, yeah, in a month. Okay, I mean, yeah, a lot of it wasn't very good, but some of it was. So,
Mhm.
and sometimes when my first writing instructor, she would say, "This is what I want you to write about. You got 10 minutes. Here's the timer." And
Mhm.
you write fast and you turn off your editor. I find too that when I write first draft of things, I do it on a written page, a handwritten page. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I'll write as fast as I can. I'll have an idea of the scene, and it's funny when I get to about 4 pages, I think it's satisfying because I think I've got a scene. It's going to work. And then and maybe it'll go on to 10 pages or not usually much longer than that for the initial one. You leave out a lot of things, like
Yeah. Mhm.
some of the gestures, some of the internal reactions. A lot of it's just dialogue, but you can fill in all that stuff. So
Yes, you can.
when you put in the computer, you fill in all that.
Hmm.
It still might not be good, but it might be, yeah.
I call that, and maybe this is not a great thing to call it, but I call it my garbage writing. So if I have an idea
Yeah.
and I just throw all the rules out the window, I'm not punctuating well, I'm not doing
Yeah.
attributions for who's
Yeah.
talking. I know who's talking. I can go back and fill that in. But if I'm afraid I'm going to lose it, like lose the thread of what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. I
Yeah.
just plunk it out really, really fast on the computer, and sometimes those are my better scenes.
There you
I
go.
mean,
Yeah.
they're not usable in the first draft format. They're a mess,
Yeah.
a hot
Yeah.
mess. But I go back and I'm like, oh yeah, because there's those magic moments where you're like, oh wait, I've got to go write this down now. Like if maybe you've been mulling over, maybe a scene that hasn't been working or something in your head for a story. So
Right.
I think
Right.
that's
Or it's a
fun.
great feeling when you can't keep up, your writing can't keep up with your mind, or your typing can't keep up with your mind. You're just trying to catch up with the scene.
The good days, the good
The
days
good
of
days.
writing.
The good days. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you write everything to start by hand, or are you just saying that for like that kind of exercise you write by hand?
No, I write it, just about everything. And then I'll try and type it in the computer the same day or within 24 hours.
Right.
And
And
then
then do
I'll
you
fill in
edit?
some of the gaps.
Okay, so then as you are typing in what you wrote by hand, then you're filling in and you're editing a little bit as you go. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It might not have started until page two. It might
yeah,
have ended earlier. It might have needed a different ending,
sure.
but not too much, but I'll spend some time on it. Probably
That makes
more
sense.
time in typing it in than I did writing it.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah.
Neat process. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't do that. But I
Well,
love
that's
that.
here's something else that I think is important is setting.
Mhm.
And this might appeal to you because you're such a traveler. My books often have international settings,
Yes.
Mexico, Colombia, Algeria. Um, and what do I do to get those settings? I'm not that visual, so I like to really go in those settings and look around and take
Mhm.
notes, take pictures. But what I find is that you often can't translate a picture to a page.
Yes.
So when you handwrite, when you write down in notes the things that are affecting you at the moment, sometimes those will work really well when you write the scene. So, I recommend trying to get to these places. With Saving Miles, I visited a number of places with my friends from the YMCA just to look at what the scenes should have.
And I think that we're able to layer in things more accurately with the senses. So I teach middle schoolers how to write. I love that age group. Not everybody gets excited about
Yeah.
teaching middle school kids,
Yeah.
but when we talk about senses, and I'm like, what does it smell like? What does
Oh,
the
there you go.
air feel like? Is it
Yeah.
sticky? Is it, but all the things, and just like, even if you're outside, what are the noises in the distance? Like, can you hear
Yeah.
traffic?
Yeah.
Can you hear,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of thing that you're not going to get from like just researching something online. Like,
Right.
actually sitting and absorbing all of a setting because you were there.
Or you're in a bazaar and they're selling things. Well, what are they selling?
Yes.
Like in Mexico, they might be selling um, imitations of rap artists in Mexico, Yeah, all kinds of different things. Or maybe Day of the Dead stuff, which is
Yes.
really interesting. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Or like the spices that you can smell, but now you're at the
Yes,
next booth
yes.
where they are custom measuring you for shirts, you know, like, and it's just, there's these combinations, and just such, a richness to the experience. And I love traveling like that. My brain feels like it's just kind of on fire because there's so much, input, sensory input.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember this guy's name, but he was a famous author. And I took one of his sessions with him, and he said most writers overuse the sense of sight. What you really have to do is concentrate on getting those other senses in. So he goes in every scene he has, he tries to make sure that there are at least two other senses he
Mhm.
uses in that scene. It's a really good thing to do. It's very practical.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you like this kind of question or not, but I really, really always love the answers to this, which is if you were going to have a dinner party,
Oh
who
boy.
would you invite, living or dead? We're going to let you bring ghost guests if you
Yeah.
want.
Well, one of them would be Daniel Woodrell, who wrote Winter's Bone, which is a book I love. He died this year
Mhm.
or last. Another would be I love Tana French in the Woods. There are particular books I like of people because it's just such a virtuoso. writing style and visual and gets all the senses in there. Tim O'Brien, I would love to have at the table. His book, The Things They Carried, is just
Hmm.
wonderful. It's just wonderful. And you know, I tell people this all the time. If you can use objects correctly, you can really evoke character. It was one of the first things I learned in a writer's class. And particularly objects that have both positive and negative emotions attached to them. Mixed
Ooh.
emotions, yeah. So here's one I tell all the time, and this is a true story. Okay, so there was a documentary on 9/11, and they looked at all the objects that they discovered in the rubble.
Oh,
And they told this story about a woman whose husband, her birthday just happened to be on September 11th.
okay.
And her husband drove his fancy car off to one of the towers and it collapsed. And she never saw him again. And so a few weeks later, or months later, they uncover all the rubble and the workers discover his car. And they say, look,
Hmm.
we're not going to open the trunk without you. And in the trunk, they saw a birthday present, a card, and a single rose.
Oh my God, right? What a scene. And then I just think about how you could spin the story from there. Does she ever even open the gift?
Yeah, yeah, right. Or does she read the card?
Yeah.
Or does she lift the rose and smell it? You know? Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I think she
oh.
opened the gift. I think she opened the gift. Part of it. You can use contradiction too. So the
Mhm.
man who was perfectly dressed, his suits were all never had a wrinkle in them. His ties were always straight, never a mark on them, but his shoes were never shined. You
Huh.
know?
Huh.
This is a question. Yeah. Why is that?
Well, now I want to know more, right?
Yeah.
Is there anybody else at your party, or those are the ones? Your dinner party?
No, there can be more. Let's see. I loved Frederick Bachman's Bear. Uh, was
Hmm.
it Beartown? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a guy that mixed like 20 points of view, and he did it flawlessly, just from one to the other. I thought that was a great book. Jean Le Carré, A Perfect Spy. How do you portray a con artist with sympathy? Because a con artist, by definition,
We shouldn't feel any sympathy.
doesn't feel any sympathy for anybody, right?
Very true.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Skillful.
yeah. Skillful, skillful. Let's see. Oh, and here's another one. I read Taylor Jenkins. Um,
Yes.
Daisy Six, or Daisy and the Six, I think it's called.
Daisy Jones and the Six.
Daisy Jones and the Six. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. I thought when I read this book, it's done in a magazine type interview type kind
Hmm.
of more format, and I thought, well, this is good, but there's no way she's going to sustain this. That you can really carry this off for a whole book, and she does. She
Yes.
carries it off. So,
Yes.
again, you could study, but again, all these people would have interest. There would be, writers' conversations. I think you'd need to have Patricia Highsmith Smith there just to cut through all the bullshit and reveal the real secrets.
This is going to
So,
be a heck of a dinner party.
oh yeah, lots of booze and lots of yelling.
We have to have many, many courses for this. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna
Oh, I.
be. So, what have you been reading lately?
Oh, here's a really good one that you're not going to expect. I get the Wall Street Journal, I get the New York Times.
Mhm.
They kind of offset each other,
Yeah.
and somebody in the Wall Street Journal recommended Theophrastus, who was a writer in 400 BC,
Oh my goodness.
and he did a book called Characters, and each one. Here, let me. Right here. He gives it's a short book. He gives description of each type of character there is in 400 BC, the dissembler, the flatterer, the coward. And some of it is really funny.
Is it accurate?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh
like it's
yeah.
still accurate today?
Yes. Yes, let me here I'll read you one. 39. Okay, the braggart. And I'm just going to read part of it. He gives a general definition and then an example. Bragging is pretending to have excellences that one does not really possess. Okay. And then he goes on to say, as he talks, he says, the braggart is the man who stands on the wharf and tells the bystanders how much capital he has invested in ships at sea, and tells how extensive is his business of loaning money and how much he has made and lost by different ventures. As he talks thus magnificently, he sends his slave to his banker, where he has exactly 1 shilling to his credit.
I have never heard of this book. This is
Yeah,
crazy
look it up.
great.
It's a quick read too. Look it up, and you could even use it as you're designing the characters in your novel, you know?
Okay, see, this is cool. I love learning new things.
And who would have suspected it would come from the Wall Street Journal? But it did.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's fun. That's really fun. So, what are you working on right now? Are you in the middle of another novel?
Yeah, I am. I've been selling one novel and it hasn't sold yet, and I've got another novel that I've got out to a developmental editor and a few beta readers. And that one, the one that I'm really embroiled in, takes place in 1969 in Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
So I've gone more historical.
Yeah.
The year after everything happened, which was 1968.
Right.
I grew up in Cleveland. So, and it involves somebody who's escaping from the mob, Chicago mob, who's in Cleveland, a wrestling coach. And one of his wrestlers is an anti-war demonstrator whose
Okay.
father's suffering from shell shock. And the anti-war demonstrator has to save his wrestling coach from the mob. So we'll see.
I love it. I love it. This has been fun. Thank you for hanging out with
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
I was
good.
just trying something a little different in interview style with maybe quirky questions, but I hope you enjoyed it. We sure enjoyed having you on today. Thank you, Carl.
Well, I got to tell you, it was hell. Valerie. Just hell.
Oh, stop.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of The Aside. If you'd like more conversations with authors just off the page, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.